After going through this video, you will be able to explain associative array, explain a multidimensional array. Let us continue our discussion on the types of array. Associative arrays have strings or texts as its indices. These arrays are particularly used when the indices and their association with the values are more important than the values alone. For example, here on the left side, we have the names of the US presidents, and on the right side, we have the year in which they were first elected. Now, if we store only the values that are the years, the information will be less significant. So, here the indices are important, that is, names of the presidents, which makes the information useful and complete. Now, this association of indices with the values is called a key value pair, where the indices are the keys and the years are the values. So, in our case, we have 4 key value pairs. Now, let us assume we can define an associative array. Here, years is a variable in which we have stored the array. Inside the brackets, we put all the key value associations separated by comma. Now, each association has a key inside inverted commas, as it's a string followed by equal to greater than sign that looks like an arrow, followed by the value. Here the value is an integer, hence they are without the inverted commas. So in this associative array, we have 3 key value pairs. Also, printing the element in case of associative arrays is simple. Say, we want to print the value corresponding to Barack. Can you guess what value we will enter here? It will be Barack because in case of associative arrays, the indices are the strings or the texts, which in this case is Barack. Similarly, we can replace the value of an element like this, and we can add a new element like this. It works exactly the same as we have done in the case of numeric indexed arrays, with the only difference in the indices. Also, we can define this array element by element like this. In the case of associative arrays, we can use the for each loop like this to print all the elements. Your task is to run this code and observe the output on your own. Next, we have a multi-dimensional array. These are the arrays of arrays, which simply means each element of an array is also an array. These arrays can be of anything like integer or string or any other data type, but cannot be a combination of each other. Let us understand how we can define a multi-dimensional array with the help of this example. Suppose we want to store the marks of 3 different students for various subjects. So here in one array we are storing the marks of 3 subjects. Here we have an associative array that stores the marks of a student named Amit for 3 subjects: physics, chemistry and mathematics. Similarly, we have 2 more associative arrays that store marks of 2 more students, Chirag and Vandana. And now say we want to store all these student records combined into another array. And to do this, we create an associative array like this. But if you notice, the elements in this array, $A, $B and $C, are all arrays in itself. $students in such a case is a multi-dimensional array where the array elements is an array in itself. We can in fact alternatively replace the $A, $B and $C with the arrays they store, and the code will become like this. Once you get accustomed, you might directly prefer to write this code just like this, instead of using intermediate variables to store the arrays. Just like any other array, to iterate through this multi-dimensional array, we have to use a for each loop like this. Note that the code on the right is the continuation of the code on the left side. Here, the $students array contains 3 elements. This means that the loop will run 3 times. And in each iteration, it picks up one key value association and assigns the key to the first variable, $student, and the value to the second variable, $subjects. So, for the first iteration, $student will contain Amit and $subjects will contain the array associated with Amit. Now for the second iteration, $student will contain Chirag and $subjects will contain the array associated with Chirag. And similarly, it will be for the third iteration. Interestingly, the values $subjects in each case of the 3 interactions are arrays in itself. So we have to use another for each loop to iterate through the array $subjects. Since even though this array contains 3 elements, this loop will also run 3 times. And here in each iteration, it picks up one key value association and assigns the key to the first variable, $subject, and the value to the second variable, $mark. So for the first iteration for Amit, $subject will become physics and $mark will become 77. For the second iteration, $subject will be chemistry and $mark will be 86, and so on and so forth. So once this array iteration is completed, it will come out of this loop and will go to the next iteration of the outer loop. And then for Chirag, the inner loop will continue just like we explained moments back, and so on for Vandana. This is called a nested loop, a loop inside another loop. The outer loop will run 3 times, as the outer array contains 3 elements, and for each of the elements in the outer array, the inner loop will run 3 times. So technically, the inner loop runs 3 into 3 times. For any multi-dimensional array, we would need to use a nested loop in order to access its elements. Now that we have reached the end of this topic, let us quickly summarize the differences between the types of array, that is numeric indexed array and associative array. First, the numeric indexed array is a collection of the same kind of information, whereas an associative array is a collection of a pair of information. Next, in a numeric indexed array, the order in which we present information is important, while in the case of an associative array, the association between the pair of information is important. Next, the way we define both the numeric indexed and associative array is different from one another. In case of a numeric indexed array, we can access any element of the array using the numeric index. And for an associative array, we can access any element of the array using the key index, which is in string format. Lastly, the way we loop through a number indexed array and an associative array is different to each other. So that was all about arrays. Up next is a quiz.